You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to yet again another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night right here on all your favorite social media apps and websites and everywhere you can find live streaming video. Okay, not everywhere, but all the major platforms, YouTube, Rumble, we're on there. And you can check out our audio podcast live at midnight on Thursdays. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian. Is he going to say it this week?
Cedric Creel.
Wait, Cedric Creel?
It's Cedric Creel.
I'm not hearing it. Oh, the music's too loud.
Cedric Creel.
Creel?
Cedric Creel.
Creel?
Like
Creel?
Creel.
Like Creole or Creel? Like
Creel.
Krill, like
Creel.
The fish?
Cedric Creel. You say the name, Cedric Creel.
Where are you from, Cedric?
It's a place far away, but yet close to your heart.
Cedric.
In
like
here.
A couple different accents there.
Always.
It's a cacophony of accents.
Yeah,
Sounds like Adam
it's one of
Sandler.
those.
It sounds like Adam Sandler.
Those cockphonies. It's one of those, what you said.
You don't want to mess with them cockphonies.
Them
I'm telling you.
cockphonies.
Can't mess with them, man.
You don't do it.
Nice Jack Sparrow.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
No, that makes me think of
Don't do it.
Wedding Singer when he's in that movie and he goes, "Oh, he's like, hey, relax." Don't do it. And then he looks at Drew Barrymore, gives her a look, and she's like, "No." And he's like, okay. But no, we got a great show. We got a packed show. We got tons of news.
Oh, man, we always have too much news.
Oh yeah,
Right.
the juice is
What's
dead.
going on in Hollywood?
Juice is dead.
Well, that is news.
I only put it out there because it's old news now, but you know
Yeah.
what? He was an actor.
He was.
And he broke out into the fame before he started murdering people.
He was almost the Terminator. But
Yeah. What? He was almost the Terminator?
Oh, yeah, that's old news. We've
I didn't
actually
know
talked
that.
about that before, yeah. But the
I don't listen to our show.
producers didn't think that people would believe him capable of like being like a murderous robot, so they did. So they didn't hire
They
him.
didn't know any better,
Yeah.
did they?
But then so
Then he did the Lethal or Naked Gun.
yeah,
Which is a classic.
Yeah.
Leslie
Oh, yeah.
Nielsen is just
yes,
comic genius. Great movie. All three of them? There's three of those, aren't there?
yeah.
Naked Gun, Naked Gun 2.5, and Naked
There's
Gun
about to be
33 and a
Three and a
third.
third.
So they're about to be the remake with
Yeah.
Liam Neeson, and I actually am intrigued by that because Liam Neeson can do like the straight face, like he can do
Yeah.
the straight face comedy.
I don't know if he can entertain me with it for about like 2 hours.
We'll see. That's what I'm
I
saying.
don't know about
I don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm
He
just
can
not
do
buying
it.
it.
Yeah.
The only time I'll buy it is if at one point he looks over and he's like, I possess.
I mean, did that video? Heck, I think you were the one that sent that video with. Was it Piers Morgan? No, it was not Piers Morgan. It was Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious.
It was pretty
that's
funny.
hilarious.
It was
So-
pretty good. But still,
So, like,
I don't
I'll
know
give
if
you
I
a-
can handle a whole movie of that.
Well, that's kind of Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. That's
that
that's
deadpan delivery. I love it.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out. We're
We'll
gonna
see.
find out. But we've got tons of news. That was the big one to get off the block because,
Yeah.
truth be told, yeah, it's old news now. But Juice is dead.
The juice dried out.
Yep. I mean, the victims of
Juice dried
the murder.
The juice got cancer.
I was gonna say I can't. I try to tune him out and I can't. I mean, Cedric just keeps going sometimes.
Creel.
And he just knocks me off my train of thought. But yeah, Juice is dead, and well, thankfully his victims can, rest assured that their killer is gone. But anyways, we're gonna move on to our movies. The movie we reviewed this week and the movie news because we just got such a lot to cram into the show.
Yeah.
The big one on the block, number one at the box office. However, not treading like super high, but still well enough that it I think is easily going to eclipse its production budget.
Yeah.
But that is Civil War. Came out this past weekend. and it garnered about $25 million at the box office. Production budget, I think, was about 30.
Yeah.
Don't know about as far as including like commercials, promotion, all that stuff. But
I think
A24's highest grossing film.
Yeah, it is, but it is funny though because I still don't. We'll get into it, but I don't know if it's going to trend upward in a way that it's going to be a huge financial success. I mean, they think so. I mean, I'm sure it'll at least break even, but
That's part of what we're going to talk about.
Sitting pretty good at Rotten Tomatoes right now, though. 82 critics, 77 audience. I know that's not.
So what did we think of
Yeah.
it? That's
Yeah.
true. What did we think of the movie, and what is our review? Do we fit in with those positive reviews?
Ours is the definitive
the
review.
definitive.
Yeah.
Absolutely, every single week. If you didn't hear it from the Red Moon Podcast, well, then you didn't hear a good review.
Yeah.
Here is our review of Civil War. The following is a review by Keith Cheatham. Topping the box office this weekend and setting a record for A24 releases comes the latest and possibly last film to be directed by Alex Garland. Famous for penning 28 Days Later and his directorial debut, Ex Machina, Garland continued to curry favor with critics with subsequent films Annihilation and Men. With a propensity for art house films exploring humanity and societal themes, Garland's works, often praised as think pieces, that tend to utilize shock value to dissect those societal themes, and Civil War is no exception. I say this insofar as the opinions of the critics go. While Garland's intent with Civil War was to shock and dissect socio-political themes, and if you ask the critics, it succeeded, I found much like each release after Ex Machina that Civil War is another milquetoast at best film paraded as the pinnacle of enlightenment. Following a famous war photographic journalist, Lee Miller, played by Kirsten Dunst, and her friend and colleague, Joel, played by Wagner Moura, aka Great Value Pedro Pascal, the pair embark on a cross-country mission to interview the president, crossing a war-torn America alongside geriatric journalist Sammy, played by Stephen McKinley Henderson, and aspiring photographer Jesse, played by Kaylee Spaney. The group encounter a slew of horrors of a nation at war. Shortly before Civil War's release, Garland stated he has no plans to direct again, and personally I think this may be for the best. Garland has had nothing interesting or meaningful to say on film since Ex Machina, and even if it had its pretentious moments, Civil War is simply put boring and meaningless. I've come to find many of A24's productions to be hit or miss. They allow their directors artistic freedom, and from a purely filmmaking aspect, that's terrific. The problem has become, however, that because it's artistic or pseudo-intellectual critics label it as automatically amazing, and if you dislike it, well, it's because you weren't smart enough to get it. Spoiler alert, you're not stupid. There's nothing to get. It's a mid-level film. While most claim the film to be ambiguous when it comes to political sides, never revealing what has caused states to secede or which faction lands on which side of the political spectrum, even linking Texas and California together as the Western forces, there are plenty of not-so-subtle moments to make you fully aware of which political party the filmmaker thinks of as bad. The larger plot, however, goes out of its way to not give any details around the political climate of the film. This didn't make the movie ambiguous, as critics claim. All it did was create a film with no world building and no real stakes. I don't care for which army wins or loses. The film wants us to take the Western forces at face value as the good guys, or otherwise make you question who is good or who is bad. Because the world lacks any depth and we have no sense of what anyone is fighting for, there's no way to emotionally connect with what is going on. Leaning on the shocking images of the horrors of Civil War to elicit a response from audiences. It's a cheap way to elicit emotion, as the film offers nothing edifying to accompany the already obvious commentary that war is horrific. It's not just the plot that is hard to relate to, as I never cared about any of the characters either. Dunst's lead character is dull and unlikable, and she grudgingly mentors Jesse, who is annoying, dull, and unlikable. Though the movie attempts some emotional depth, painting Jesse to be a younger version of Lee, complete with Lee generically rediscovering her heart through Jesse, and Jesse learning as a journalist how to harden hers, the emotional payoff is ultimately lackluster, as I never grew to care about either. Great Value Pedro only ever comes across to me as Great Value Pedro. Hell, they even cast him as a character named Joel, for goodness sake. Sure, the production design is good and the cinematography is the best aspect of the film, though even it isn't particularly unique compared to other dystopian works. A well-made movie from a technical aspect, however, should really be the bare minimum of any production. Garland has proven himself more than capable of producing a well-made movie, but it's in plot, dialogue, and character development that his later films lack, especially Civil War. Seeing the mass abandoned vehicles and dilapidated buildings evoked scenes of The Walking Dead or even The Last of Us, fitting of great value Pedro Pascal's inclusion. As a war movie, I've seen better. As a dystopian movie, I've seen better. As an Alex Garland film, I've seen better. Civil War is a dull and passable film and tries too hard to be some grand analogy of the political climate, pretending to be a neutral look at where our nation is heading, when in reality it's a tepid, exploitative film made to seem like Hollywood cares about the state of our country while they continue to chip away at its social fabric. I give Civil War 2 out of 4 stars. 2 out of 4 stars.
Well,
Cedric. Okay, man, he's just going
That's it.
nuts.
That's
over
all
there
is. That's 2 stars, and that's Cedric's feelings on it.
Yeah, well, Cedric, thank you for letting us know. No, well, look, 2 stars, middle of the pack.
Yeah,
That's not terrible.
No, I didn't think the movie was terrible. I do think I probably will never watch it again. It was kind of dull, and by the end of it, I was like, there's no like world building or point. Like, it's just, I mean, there's thematic points, not all of which I agree with, but overall, like there just wasn't an actual story that I cared about. So, or characters that I cared about.
Sean, what about you? What'd you end up giving it?
I did go higher. I gave it 2.5.
Okay.
I wanted to love this movie.
Yeah.
There were so many things about it that I did really, really like and enjoy. It's just, I think Keith has pretty much said it. It's like there wasn't a point. It's one of the very few movies that I've been to where I've walked away kind of scratching my head as to what that was supposed to really be about. Like, I felt like it was not as believable as and I don't know if Alex Garland was going for trying to make this a civil war that you could actually believe could happen. But like Keith said in the review, you have so many different, what very little world building there was, the breadcrumbs that he leaves are unbelievable things. It's like, just like the Texas-California thing. It's like, in what world would a red and a blue state?
It's kind of funny you bring that up because I've even heard other people talk about how Alex Garland is not American.
No, he's British.
He's
yeah.
British, so
yeah.
it kind of made a little sense that he was
just doesn't know his
doesn't. Well, and in the same way that I know a little bit about Parliament and how it works,
right? Yeah,
but I don't know the inner workings of like,
yeah.
You know, you have the different parties, but you also have your upper house, your lower house, and I'm just like,
I think also
commoners and
part of that was like the idea of like, again, they have touted how this movie's ambiguous, though I would say there's some things in there that aren't quite ambiguous, but for the most
Clearly
part,
not.
in the general plot of like who's on what side and what led to the Civil War, they never mention anything.
Yeah.
They don't want to say, well, this group represents like conservatives and this group represents liberals. They don't go that far in saying anything outright, and I think like part of that, I thought like Texas and California was part of that, is like, well, we'll take the biggest like red state and the biggest blue state and we'll have them be a team so we can say, look, we're being ambiguous.
Yeah, like they've united over something so against the American way of life, no matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, parties don't matter. This is just a right and a wrong issue, but I kind of feel like,
but if you're going to make it that
like
black and white, you can't be ambiguous.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing that, and I think it was intentionally vague to the point where it's not as enjoyable because there's not a real antagonist that you can that you're sure is the antagonist. But then you also have like the whole bend about the journalists being, you know, they're supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be, but then you get to the end of the film when they've, you know, captured the president and one of the journalists absolutely takes a side. Yeah. And I'm like, this is a moment where he should have been neutral, but because of what's happened to his friends and in their journey getting there, he absolutely takes a side. And I'm just like, so you're not really selling me the idea that real journalists are are neutral and can remain that way throughout. They're just
which
there
is
to tell
funny
the story.
Because if that was what they were trying to sell you, I would think that's laughable in this day and age.
Yeah.
And I think anytime you take a movie and try to focus on journalists and make it serious, that I'm supposed to take them seriously, I'm already starting from a level of doubt that is going to be very, very hard to turn into a positive throughout the movie. And that's kind of where I stood on it. I hated this movie.
we knew you would.
I know, yeah. I thought it was grotesquely just simple and simplistic throughout. I gave it 1 star.
Yeah.
I thought the characters, I didn't care for a single one of them. I kept thinking the whole movie, why are we following these people? Why are they in the midst of a movie called Civil War? If the title doesn't give away that it's about the Civil War that we've actually had in this country, and it's about a futuristic current day, I would expect to see a civil war. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I saw journalists going through a war zone that was told to be. Now, granted, look, you could say a lot about the budget. They didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
Granted, if it was a $30 million budget, they did a lot with the $30 million. I'm not going to downplay production value in that regard. But for the scope and the grandeur of the movie is supposed to take, other than social media maps that showcase the outline of the United States and how the territories are drawn up, it makes no sense in terms of actually being there's like no lore build up, no world building at all in the movie. There's a few references to Western forces or different places that used to be states or whatnot, or the Maoist. They say the I forget what they call them, the Maoist sympathizers or something up in Seattle. And like there's all these different references they throw out there to try to make it seem like there's this deep underlying bed of what the world has become in America. And I found it hokey and laughable. I was like, none of this is believable. Like you more like you said, it's like I thought a lot of the war-torn scenes even were just kind of lackluster compared to what I have seen in other war movies. I think you mentioned that in the review. I also thought there were so many moments where you could have showcased a shred of humanity to show that it truly was countrymen against countrymen. You don't ever get that throughout the movie. It's raw vengeance throughout all sides, even from the quote-unquote so-called, again, it's ambiguous.
The Western forces.
The Western forces supposedly being the good guy, but they do terrible things.
Yeah, they kill unarmed people towards the end of the film.
And then you ultimately have, like, there's one scene where they go to, like, kind of a, they don't really say, it looked like a, just a ragtag group that is fighting some kind of resistance. It looks like uniformed armed people. It's not the Western forces. But they go there to fall in, to do some reporting or photography or whatever.
Yeah.
And at the end of the scene, it's this visceral, they carry out prisoners, set them up in like a firing squad line, and then they all back up, and then this like machine gun just mows them down, and it shows the look of the girl taking pictures, and this, you can see out of focus this guy who's shooting them, and like just mowing them down with this grin on his face. And I'm like, look, it's one thing to make that kind of, visceral, out of body evil emotion when you're talking about something that, is a terroristic act of people that are somewhat detached from who in common day society. Yeah. Like there's some kind of maybe resemblance or some way of me evoking an emotion of like, oh, I see where he's coming from, even just a tinge of that. There was none of that in this movie. I never felt like this movie spoke to me.
Yes.
I never felt like it was believable enough that I jumped on the bandwagon and thought I could see myself in that position. It just was completely, I don't know, I just felt like it was everything that he wanted to hint at as far as a social commentary in any regard. He just ratcheted it up to 11. And kept it there the whole film.
Yeah, I think at the end of the review mentioned it being kind of exploitive, and I do in that regard like agree with you there in the sense that if if the like all the horrible things you see and then the photography is like the shock value they create to like, this is like, look, this is where we're leading the Civil War, look, this is how horrible, but I don't feel like it was effective in that way. Like you see like in Saving Private Ryan when you see the death and destruction, I felt like that's a reminder of this is what war looks like, this is ugly. This didn't feel to me like
even in, just real quick, one little side note with that, even there you somewhat have the societal and cultural relevance built in of America good guys, Hitler, Germany bad.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of a jumping off point there, even at the start of that film. And I'm not saying that's a wrong interpretation. That's just an interpretation that is baked in the moment you walk in the theater. None of that is set in stone in this movie.
Yeah, that's the thing is I feel like he wants this to be like kind of this like, oh, this is this eye-opening like cautionary tale of like, look at what like these horrors of war and what's going on, and we should be cautious about how we proceed. But it really was almost exploitive in the fact that you don't have the hope or any of the things that you can root for either. And it's just, for me, it didn't work as a cautionary tale too. It's kind of like one of the gripes I had with Oppenheimer, where we're like, okay, we get like the whole nuclear like caution, like we've had that caution, nuclear is dangerous warning our whole lives. So at this point, you have to do something a little bit different. I'm not saying that's not something you shouldn't preach, that there's some dangers to nuclear power, but at the same time, it's the same scare tactic we've seen before.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that because y'all are both talking about a similar thing that even Alex Garland has said in interviews when he's talked about the movie. He said the main overarching theme of the film is war is hell. And that in war, there are no winners. There are no good guys. Everybody has this dark side to them when put to that in that scenario. And he goes into some of the different imagery that you see in the movie, and he's like, it's not pulling back. It is supposed to be shocking, but it's also supposed to just highlight the fact that even though this group thinks they're the ones doing the right thing, obviously they don't. And even the president thinks what he was doing was the right thing, just as Hitler did, but it doesn't make it the right thing. And even the journalists think that they're above it all, and they're supposed to go out and tell this true story and showcase just the facts and just the truth. But internally, they're out for an adrenaline rush just as much as these soldiers that are, like you said, mowing prisoners down, and just the different horrors of it. But I'm like, I agree with you all. I think if he could have shown that in the film, then it would have been the thing. It's one thing for a director to come out later in an interview and say, this is what I was going for. But then if you're the moviegoer and you can't walk out of the theater and say, oh, that's what he was going for.
Exactly.
Then you didn't do your job.
That's how I feel.
That's where I'm at with the film. I agree with everything he said, and I can see bits and pieces of that, but he didn't give me enough of that in the film for me to walk out and know what the hell I just saw.
Right.
And that's the only thing. The only things that I really enjoyed about the film is because we're bashing the film. But
I'm going to continue.
I didn't think any of the actors were good.
Yeah.
I didn't think any of the acting was very well done at all.
Talking about the lead, I just thought Kirsten Dunst.
No, not the good choice.
She was bland the whole
time. Even her counterpart.
Great Value Pedro.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I've never even seen this guy before.
I was like,
it's like somebody's got to get a start everywhere. But I'm like,
and
this guy was
Joel.
weak.
Yeah. And then he had like that girl. I was like, this is just Great Value Pedro Pascal doing The Last of Us.
But cinematography, I thought the cinematography in the film was great for a war film. I thought there were so many scenes. I told Keith in the theater, I'm like, for a movie that's supposed to be about war photographers, every scene in this movie is a photograph. Like I kept, somebody that's dabbled in photography, there were so many moments in the film that I'm like, dude, if you could just push the button right now and still frame that would be an amazing photo. And it wasn't even just the photos that they were taking, which were also very much like good prize-winning, so to speak, war photos.
Right.
It was just, there were so many moments just cinematically that I'm like, that is beautiful. Like, that shot is great. But then, again, it's like, you can have all this great camera work and great bokeh in the background, like great out-of-focus shots. Some of this stuff was fantastic.
Right.
And I'm just like...
but it's all for naught.
But it's for nothing. Yeah. And I'm like, if you have... Because here's one of the things, Saving Private Ryan is... is a great war film. It's gritty. The color palette, it just says cold, dark, death. Like that's the choice of the color. Everything is great. There's no fancy out of focus camera play in that movie. It's almost all either up close or wide angle shot. It's pretty simple, really, but it still tells more of a story than this film. This film had all of the artistic stuff, but it didn't use any of it to give me a good story.
And I really do think that the fault is him focusing on the journalists, because I really do think, and I've heard this from other people who might have just been trying to toot their own horn or, toot the horn of journalism and its credibility. And I really do. I think it's like, I think he was trying to write some kind of a love letter to journalism to a degree in this idea that, they're the ones who tell the real story. It's like you could sit here and think they're wrong or that they are somehow they're getting in the way, because there were a couple times where I was like, okay, you're right in the way of not only getting yourself killed but getting somebody else killed.
War photographers do not do that.
And that's what I'm saying.
The soldiers don't.
They don't
clear
care.
the way for you to go get your picture.
Right.
No, you're there on your own.
Yep.
Yeah, you're on your own. You're liable for your own life.
And that's the weird thing too, is like nothing. I'm not saying anything wrong against. There are some real world class, like in the trenches journalists, and I don't mean just war trenches. I mean across the the United States, across other countries that do internal investigations on a ground level that it's not part of some big publication. And in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking they really had I mean, even if you had it fractured, technology fractured because, everybody's not on the same grid anymore or whatnot, okay, so be it. But I was like, there wasn't even a hint at them using technology to their advantage, whether it was other people who were telling the story. You could have had it as just ragtag group of journalists. But again, we can't give credibility to those. You have to give credibility to the authentic journalists. Reuters, the New York Times.
Yeah.
There are name drops in here that I'm like, okay, you're clearly setting the tone for, again, this is where I get into it wasn't as ambiguous as they claim. There were so many little breadcrumbs, even in the plots of, the president disbanded the FBI.
Trump has said he was going to do that.
Exactly. There's all these little... There's no hiding it if you follow even a shred of a little bit of politics.
I think they mentioned that president also subverted the Constitution and elected himself for a third term.
Yes.
Which I'm like...
Which they thought Trump was going to try to do.
Oh,
yeah.
They
still do.
Exactly.
But then they mask that, though, with it's like, okay, this all points to one side.
Right.
But then we're going to have... I mean, at the beginning of the film, they're in New York. And New York is in line with the government. But if that was a Republican-esque government, then why would New York be in line with them?
Because that's where they're trying to blur the lines between reality
like
and
intentionally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just didn't hold up. It doesn't hold water because it's like, while they're trying to be subtle, they're not so subtle if you actually do pay attention to just what's in
the Antifa massacre.
Right.
Like,
And they left that ambiguous.
Yeah.
Was she for it? Was she against it? Or who was being massacred?
That's
Did
right.
Antifa massacre people, or
Yeah.
were they the ones being massacred?
So it's these little things they hint at, that they name drop, that make you think, you can apply your own perspective, and that's your bias speaking out, is the way I think Alex Garland would put it. I'm like, no, there's enough here that I'm like, you've been sold a bill of goods, but because you don't pay attention to it enough, it's why I can at least respect Oppenheimer more so. Because there's a lot more care and consideration done with how the characters are handled, based on that it's real historical events versus something like this, which I know it's fictional, but it's still got real world politic around it.
Yeah.
And let's face it, like we've all said here tonight, this movie would not even be relevant, or wouldn't even be, I think, a success if there wasn't this idea of civil unrest in the country as it is.
Yeah.
So to be that dishonest or disingenuous about approaching it with a group of people that you think are somehow going to be the voices, I'm like, no, that is your group of journalists that are on the ground that have no affiliation. Those are the ragtag group of people that get the word out, not these official yahoos that are staying in a hotel that get in with some militia group and then start taking photos for their own, whatever purpose. Yeah. And that I mean, again, I say whatever purpose because that's not even clearly explained. They're going to get an interview from the president, and you somewhat see the motivation of that revealed in the end. But even then, I'm just like, okay, is that it?
It's going to be the biggest scoop, and they'll have it.
Exactly. And I'm just like, it's just the most milquetoast generic motivations in the movie that don't wrap up towards the end that make me feel like I watched anything that was of useful purpose for any, whether it be political or civil conversation. Didn't matter.
I kind of likened it to a better made Roland Emmerich film, is what it was. Like, because they travel halfway across the country. There's some disaster going on. In this case, a war, not a natural disaster. And I'm just like, I just felt like kind of the depth of story and character felt like that. It just wasn't as bombastic, where like the whole world's falling apart and you got tsunamis coming and they're driving cars through like bricks and stuff. I mean, it wasn't that crazy as a Roland Emmerich film, but
no. And honestly, there was a lot in terms of just even the basic elements throughout, like certain set pieces that they were coming up on. They were predictable. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a scene where someone ends up driving in with their car to help them at the last minute. Could have seen it from a mile away. Yeah. And then of course it leads to someone's death. And then even in the midst of that death, one of the most jarring parts of this film to me was the choice of music in certain spots. There were just times where I get what he was going for to try to be very, I don't even want to say edgy. It was just, I found it annoying. There were just times where the musical choice was jarring and
I think
it was
he was going for
off-putting.
something like somber yet like pensive, but I don't think that quite.
It did not match at all.
If you're talking about the music during like the scene with the fire and embers and such.
No, not that one.
Okay.
That one just tried to evoke emotion I didn't have, and that's why I found it laughable. The one that really I have to go back. I probably won't. I'd have to go back and watch it. But no, there was a scene where it was it was supposed to be a somber moment, and this it was a guitar riff or this hard rock kind of like music. It uses it at the end of that scene to transition into something else. And even throughout the transition, I'm just like, this does not match at all.
Yeah.
I do not know what he was going for here. It sounded like somebody literally stuck a random music track in the middle of the movie, and I was just like, that was terrible.
The music was in several scenes was a poor choice. Because I'm thinking, I said something to Keith in the theater about one of them, but I can't. I'm drawing a blank on where. Well, I think it was actually at the end of the film when they catch up to the president and everything's over.
Yeah.
And it's like this music that they're playing. I'm just like,
what is this?
Yeah, you want me to think that this was a tragedy, but you're playing this like upbeat, happy-go-lucky.
Well, and that honestly
and I'm
is
like,
what
that's where it's
kind of sells it to me that it wasn't a tragedy.
Yeah.
Based on, again, there's like little notes like that where I'm like, this is, to me, it's pretty obvious the message he's peddling or selling. But again, because there's too much that he doesn't commit to in terms of what story he's telling, it's left too open.
Oh, I know.
And too open-ended to the point where it's just such a disappointment.
Yeah, I would have almost rather him took sides
openly. Absolutely.
Like,
because at least I could give it a poor rating in that regard because I'm pissed at it.
Yeah. I mean, you got the Western forces storming the White House, which was very reminiscent of January 6th, in my opinion. And I'm like, but you flipped it around. It's like one side's not allowed to do that, but the Western forces are allowed to do that.
Well, then that's when there's actual civil war going on.
I guess, yeah.
And now the president is quote-unquote a bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, again, and even that, I say that because, again, I think that's the way the movie portrays it. At least in my mind, that's what I felt.
Or maybe it was supposed to be ambiguous. Maybe the Western forces are the bad guy and the president was good. Though I agree, I don't think the movie tries to play that.
Yeah.
No. And there's just so much about this movie that I get the wide swath of where we're all coming from. I didn't have, to me, it just by the time the credits rolled, there was not enough to save it for me. I was just like, wow, I'll never watch this again. Sorry, that's just where I landed.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I got out of the movie and I knew people at my church, some guys in my men's group that have talked about it and stuff. And so I posted on Facebook. I was like, saw the movie, and somebody commented from my men's group and was like, I was kind of looking forward to this, but I don't really know. And I was like, after seeing it, I'm kind of indifferent. I said the cinematography and sound were top notch, but the story not so much. And he replied and was just like, I'll probably just wait for it to come out on video then. And I'm like, that's where I'm kind of at now, is like the only other time I'll revisit this for the aesthetics, because there's lots of films that I just don't care for, but I'll rewatch them again if I'm bored one night. And it's like, I'll watch it again when it comes out that I can download it or whatever. I'm not going to buy it. I'll just go flat out say that. This is going to be an illegal download because I'm not buying this movie. But I've already pre-ordered Dune 2 on 4K because I will buy that movie. You can take my money. No, I didn't get the steelbook.
Oh, come on.
I don't have the steelbook of the first one, so I didn't want it to not match.
Selling it.
I know, but I'm not going to buy it twice.
I think they're coming out with a new steelbook for the first one, so you can just get that
Maybe
one.
they'll have a box set. I don't know.
That'll be when they come out with Messiah.
I'll pay for good movies. I'm not going to pay for the bad ones.
So, and Keith, of course, our official review there, 2 out of 4.
Yeah, I mean, 2. I guess I think some, like Sean said, the technical aspects. I thought like there were good technical aspects, but yeah, I just didn't care enough about the story or characters that I feel like I'll really revisit it. So
yep. I agree.
Yep. Alrighty, guys, we're gonna move into our headline segment because we got a ton to talk about.
Yeah,
so
we do.
Let's just roll that open.
I think it's funny. It's like just shoot the president and then play that song. That's
what
exactly what the movie did.
President,
we just killed the president.
Spoiler alert!
I don't care.
You come in and you shoot the president, man. You
Our
just shoot him.
viewers probably care now.
Yeah,
we just ruined the movie.
FBI cares. All the FBI.
Actually,
they just
the FBI was disbanded in that movie.
But they just all tuned
Not
in.
in real life. They're after us right now.
You see, like every single one of them just tuned into this podcast. They're talking about shooting the president. It's like, it was a movie, Civil War.
Yeah,
it would not surprise me.
Facebook just flagged us. Shoot president.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This whole conversation
definitely did.
And then we're talking about Civil War, so that Facebook's just like these guys are.
True.
It's a new January 6th.
Oh, they're starting it all over again.
Dude,
we're throwing all the flags.
Jan 6 now.
We're doing
you gotta say
every
the first
damn red flag you can throw out there.
You can't
Ba
say
ba
that.
ba 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 ba. When the FBI comes to Brandon's studio,
Here's the thing: it's like we won't get taken down. It'll just be like, I mean, I guess it won't be any
It'll be a
different.
raid.
Like 2 views.
Yeah.
We're not spreading this content anywhere.
it'd be funny if our views went up.
No,
People are like,
yeah.
these guys are great.
Actually, it would be.
YouTube will flag us.
They
for
will.
Sure.
They'll find a way.
Yeah.
They have those like speech
that's funny.
algorithms. They scan it and then they'll just be like, or this section of your video was muted.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. We got a lot to talk about. Let's move on. I want to start from, the bottom to the top. From the bottom to the top. Yeah. We here. Oh crap. Actually, I don't know.
Oh,
this is it.
you don't
This
know
is
if the
it.
bottom's here?
I got it.
Okay.
Rust Armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed sentenced to 18 months in prison. This is following up after she was convicted back in March. We've obviously been following the saga ever since Alec Baldwin shot and killed someone.
Yeah.
Funny enough that he is still walking free. No formal charges brought against him, at least in the sense that he's actually had to face a trial and be convicted.
I mean, there's
himself.
still like an ongoing investigation and all that, but
we at least have one person now in this situation who has been held accountable, who has been charged.
And I do think it said they were going to try
convicted.
to appeal.
Of course.
Which, I mean, of course, but
and sentenced,
and I do think, they finally. I did think they said this was the max. I think sentence, like which I mean, I'm fine with. I mean, you killed a life, 18. Like that's a little over. They don't have their life at all anymore. Yeah, you have to give up like a year and a half of yours, but that's
still,
not the same.
And I'm not trying to downplay what she did, but she didn't pull the trigger.
No.
She didn't end the life.
True. That's actually
negligent.
She was negligent, and her actions definitely resulted.
Yeah.
In the ending of the life.
Well, that's why if she gets a maximum 18 months, then I would say, Alec Baldwin deserves the same. But whether he'll get the same is going to be, we'll see.
We will.
I doubt it, but
and we just wanted to at least follow up on that news. We wanted to bring that to everybody's attention that at least one person in the rush shooting that was now 2.5 years old, and one person's going to prison. And it seems like she's been in jail, the county jail, for the last month, awaiting the sentencing. Yeah. So with it having just come down, I guess now she officially just goes right off to prison, while she's fighting the appeal. Not sure how that works in terms of. I guess it depends on the level of the crime and where it falls. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but it is a little disappointing that I'm thankful for justice being served to her. I'm not thankful that the justice system has failed because a celebrity has gotten away
Yeah,
and been
yeah.
able to escape any kind of conviction or any kind of prison
I fully
time up
agree
to
with
this
that.
point. The fact that he is still walking free and that has had no actual jurisprudence has gone about and legally arrested him for what he's done or held him to account for his actions in this regard, I think is just a total. This is what we keep seeing consistently over and over again, time and again. This double standard of the justice system and how there are two kinds. And it's not, white versus black, rich, or it really is rich versus poor. You have your elites up here who think they're better than everybody, and sure, they can buy great lawyers. I don't have a problem with that. But the fact that you're supposed to have impartial judges who still come down on the side of, no, you've been wronged regardless of how much money you have or how much fame you have. The fact that we still have a justice system that can allow these people to roam free when they've actually shot and killed somebody is a travesty. So we'll continue to follow it. Everything that's going on with Alec Baldwin, everything that's happening there. He's not been convicted in a court of law. So we obviously can say, yeah, he did shoot and kill somebody because we know that to be the fact. That's just by basic reporting from the cops that were there that day. But ultimately, we'll have to continue to follow the story. We'll have to continue to see what happens and if justice will be sought and found for Alec Baldwin. All right, moving on to our second headline here. Getting bottom to the top. SAG-AFTRA.
Man, I feel like we've talked about SAG-AFTRA for like
and
years.
more child protocols, safety protocols. I
More
think,
things for Hollywood to ignore.
well, this is hot on the heels of what we talked about last week.
Yep.
With the Quiet on Set documentary.
Yep.
Or docuseries. And I just wanted to bring this up because, Keith, it was you who sent this
No.
article.
Sean
Oh,
sent
Sean, you sent it. You read it and had made a comment because you made a comment about it's interesting that they have certain stipulations they want to be pushed upon the industry to change it, but certain things are optional with regards to these child safety protocols. I didn't know if you wanted to expand on that any.
I was trying to find the quote.
Oh, because they were talking about as far as like social workers, teachers, people that like are working directly with the kids, like when they're not filming, like those like have to have background checks. I was looking for the exact quote too, but then it said that it would give producers. It didn't flat out say they were optional, but it says they have the option to force everyone who works on set to go through a background check. So, which I thought is funny. So it's like, shouldn't everybody, like, yeah, I agree, like any teachers or whatever social workers are dealing with the children, yeah, obviously they should have background checks, but honestly, anyone working with children should have a background check. There shouldn't be an optional, like this other option where producers are like, well, if you want your crew to have a background check because you think that's necessary, then we encourage you to do that, but you don't have to. You know, you can keep hiring pedophiles if you want.
Yeah, I think it's funny because, I mean, it's like at my church, to sit with a table of middle schoolers, I had to have a background check. I'm not teaching them. I'm not alone with them. I'm at a table in a room with other adults at tables with maybe 6 kids at a table, and I had to do a background check for that.
Okay,
so
my nieces and nephews play softball and t-ball and what have you at the one of the local places up here, and in order to go out on the field with them, like whether they're the coaches or even a parent, because like parents will go out on the field with like the t-ballers if they're real little and they don't know what they're doing, just to kind of keep them focused and be like, no, run to this space. But you can't even go out on the field with them anymore without a background check. And there's all kinds of people like staring at the field, whether adults or, you know, what have you, but you can't do it without a background check. So if that's the case, if all these other places that constantly work with children require background checks, you would think, yeah, Hollywood. And I did find the article where it says, right here, it says Rodriguez, which is the chief contact officer that was talking to AEW or EW. AEW's wrestling. EW from SAG-AFTRA. Anyways, Rodriguez continued. She was saying, in addition, SAG-AFTRA's most recent agreement requires background checks for any teacher or welfare worker or other individual assigned to perform the same duties as a welfare worker, such as child labor coordinator. So anyways, anybody in that capacity, there's required a background check. It says, Additionally, we have authorized producers to demand background checks as a condition of employment. They didn't say they have to, they're authorized to do so. So if you all want to, it's okay. Like, it wasn't okay for them to run a background check before?
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Like, if they ran a background check on
Well,
people...
and again, and why wouldn't you be making the stride considering these certain stories that have only just now become popular in the culture because of this docuseries, but also that we all have known has been going on for forever. You wouldn't stipulate that this is a necessity now, working on any production involving children. I mean, the fact that they continue to contest any kind of most allegations and that all these productions are typically cultivating a healthy atmosphere for children, but then of course when it's staring directly in their face of these instances where it's like, no, this will carry out even further beyond just the maybe shadow of a doubt somebody has, or even the goodwill that someone may have on a set. This will guarantee to most people that no, we are following proper protocol, and we're going to make sure that we don't have any predators on our sets to potentially bring forth, these harmful acts on these children. I mean, it's sad. I mean, two things can be true at the same time, and I'm at a point where it's sad that we have to go and nail down that far into this type of matter to make sure that children are not harmed in that capacity. But let's face it, this is the world we live in today. And not only are they exploited for fame and celebrity status, thinking, way younger than ever understanding exactly what that means, but also they are exploited in such a way for these evil, sick adults' attention and pleasure, such that they are just thrown out like trash after they're done and used, or they're thrown aside if an adult or a producer is done with them and doesn't have any more use for them. I mean, it's sick that we live in a world nowadays where this is just commonplace, or this is some kind of practice that has to be at the forefront of an initiative in Hollywood. But look, at the end of the day, Hollywood has been the ones that have over the last few years had the problems with the Me Too movement, have the problems with their so-called diversity, equity, inclusion, all these things they want to implement. Look, the target's on your all's back. If you all weren't doing these things to begin with to these children, then this wouldn't have to be something that has to be laid out in front of you as stipulations. And to me, I just think it's a little too late. It ultimately is not really addressing the problem. Too often these days do we see these kind of overarching implementations of these vague goals to try to say, we're setting forth a precedent that's never been set before, and it's only ratcheting the bar up a little bit. One rung when you should go 10 because of the precedent that's been set.
Same thing with like Harvey Weinstein and the Me Too movement, where they spouted out stuff for a little while and went, oh, hoorah, everybody gather around this cause, and they didn't do anything really to make any type of change.
And honestly, even with Harvey Weinstein's conviction, but also in his arrest back in the day, it's like the fact of the matter is he was the fall guy.
Yeah.
Everybody knew it was going on, but everybody was expecting like, oh, well, now that Harvey's we got rid of the problem. Oh yeah, because
Same
he was
thing
the
with
only
this
one.
Nickelodeon documentary. Everybody already knew that people have said stuff about Disney and child stars for years and how Hollywood messes them up. It's the secret people that they'll whisper about, but everybody's known until it breaks out like this, and then they'll make, like you said, Harvey Weinstein or Dan Schneider or somebody, the fall person, and be like, we got him, guys. Yeah, Brian Peck. We got him, guys.
I was going to say in that instance that we found out from these, I mean, people knew about it, but the Nickelodeon documentary kind of brought it back to light.
Yeah.
But it's like you've got people that were convicted sex offenders, and then they get rehired by Disney.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even the fact that you've caught them and convicted them. That's still not enough, because Disney will just hire them and let them work with kids again.
Right.
It's like that you can't combat that when you're allowing them to still exist, when you're bringing them back into the I'm like, that's not fixing anything.
No, it's not. And unfortunately it's only a problem that I think is going to get worse, because again, the problem in all of these circumstances was a failure to act to begin with. I mean, a lot of these were parents and adults who were in charge of these children's lives, and the fact that they had very little oversight or very little commitment to doing the right thing to save another child's life once they pulled theirs out, that nothing was being done by, again, quote unquote, the adults in the room, and this was just allowed to continue. It's a sad, rude awakening, I think, for our culture as a whole, because one, that you could trust any institution. I mean, yeah, let's go back to the Catholic Church and its controversy and everything that it was embroiled in several years ago. And it's like, it's not like that somehow has gone away. It's not like people forgot about it, but you sure as hell bet that it was brought up a hell of a lot more based on an institution that, granted, rightfully so, should have been criticized for allowing sex predators in, in the priesthood. But at the end of the day, regardless of that, you then don't hold any account to the people that are, out there parading around, giving us this entertainment, giving us this content that is culturally going to be not only consumed, but then buttress the culture and share ideals.
It's only offensive when it's Christians doing it, or so-called Christians doing it. That's the only time it's offensive. It's not offensive when, Hollywood does it.
Well, then you're a map. And I'm not saying we're not getting blocked on, but no, you're right. Exactly. It's only one type of crowd.
I'll just Google that term because I don't know what it means.
Yes, you do.
I don't.
I don't.
I'm going to Google it.
You can Google it.
Yeah.
I thought you did know what
We've
that
talked
means.
about it before. We've made
map?
fun of it before.
Maps.
Yeah, a map.
You just put in maps.
The person who identifies as a map.
Yep. If you put that in, it'll tell you. I mean, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to get the
that's fine.
If you say it, it'll probably unflag us because YouTube likes that. They like those people.
No, well, that's true. That's a positive term to call.
I think it's funny too. Like in this article, it says beyond all of these new rules, it says, however, crew members are not subject to a background check if the minor is accompanied on set by their parent or guardian. And I think that's funny because in the documentary that we've been referring to, the parents were there.
Yeah,
and the
you're
kids
right.
were still being molested
You're
in the next
100%
room.
right. Exactly.
And it's like, just because the parents there doesn't mean that this can't still happen. The parents were saying, hey, can we take, so-and-so and go into the meeting room or whatever? And they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yep.
I'm right here.
Yeah.
Well, but you're not in there behind that closed door.
You're right. 100%.
Stupid.
And I agree. It's like there's literally a blanket way to handle this, which is...
Oh, yeah, I knew what that stood for.
Yeah,
I don't normally...
blank.
Just a brain
No,
fart.
it's just like I've always heard it like said all outright. But
yeah.
I mean, obviously that MAP, so I'm like,
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
But ultimately, the fact that this could be easily resolved by a blanket ruling of not only background checks, but ultimately, I think you should have... I mean, I think it's funny because the arguments that are made in this argument or this article are, I think, a little bit... they're a little bit grandiose considering a new initiative. I don't think they're not necessarily needed, but it's like almost a whole department or wing in the Hollywood, centric space that basically is like, hey, we're going to have oversight over all of this. And I'm like, I'd be all for that. If there were children in your film, if they're underage and they're on a film set, then you need people who I think are there to protect their livelihood and their innocence to whatever degree. And I think you need people who are trained to be in that space. Keith, you're grinning over here, and I don't know why.
I'm trying not to, like, I want you to talk because I had this image pop in my head, and like I was going to share it afterwards. Like I didn't want to interrupt.
Share it.
I keep thinking of like the Dora, which is Nickelodeon, Dora the Explorer. Like I'm the map. And I'm just like, and obviously that's not what they intended back then. But I'm like, that's another.
Oh, we sure
But
maybe
yeah,
they
but that's another thing. And I'm just like, man, I can just see that now. It's like, look at
subtlety.
I'm the map.
Alrighty, guys, we're gonna move on to something a little bit more lighthearted. Obviously, it's the first two headlines there are a little bit doom and gloom.
It happens. Well,
it is Hollywood.
But it's not the title of our show. The title of our show tonight is actually CinemaCon. 2024. Yeah, let's talk about some big reveals and some
things to maybe look forward to. Here's
there's a little bit of a bleak image here too, unfortunately.
I'm always anymore. There's obviously they'll announce things. I'm like, oh yeah, like I would like to see that as a movie. Will it be good? I don't know anymore, and that's the shame. Is like even when they announce things that I normally would have been super excited about, I still have that little bit of just doubt because Hollywood is Hollywood.
Where do you think that comes from? Because here's the thing.
My doubt, it comes from them like
track
record. Yeah, track record.
Okay,
Marvel.
that's what
Look
I'm
at
saying. There used to be a time when, like, I can think about, and granted, I wasn't even really following the industry as a whole back then, but I can think about when I first saw Batman Begins.
Oh yeah,
and to me, after seeing like Batman Forever
amazing.
when I grew up, or even Tim Burton's Batman, like I'd never seen it full until like I saw bits and pieces.
I watched all of them. So the last one I would have saw was Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So
Oh, gosh.
to
There
go
you
from
go.
that in like fifth
Yeah.
grade, because I remember that like I think that came out in fifth grade. That sounds about right.
Schumacher?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
both those were
But
Joel Schumacher.
I went from like that in fifth grade till Batman Begins, and I'm just like, this is amazing. Like this is like the greatest Batman.
This is a
movie ever
grown-up
made.
Batman.
Yes.
That's what I thought
and,
of it
and
when
that's
I
the
saw it.
weird thing is like you kind of knew, okay, because you had the Tim Burton Batmans, then you had the Schumacher Batmans. It was like, oh, okay, when that came out, it was kind of this is the next iteration. We
Yeah.
kind of get a new iteration for every generation. But when it first happened, I was like, I'm not used to this. This is a serious tone.
Like, this is
Yeah.
good.
But it got you excited for what wasn't a thing yet. Yeah, you had Spider-Man, I'm on the record as saying like Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was what got me into filmmaking. It was my first kind of grown-up film that I remember going to the theater to see, and I was like awe-inspired by it. It was a spectacle that I was like, oh wow, this is really well done.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is these were all before franchise films, before it was staking a claim on something that you knew was nostalgic, that you knew had a name from your childhood or from even a series that you might not have ever heard of before, and this was your entry into it. Now it just seems like everything that is announced, it is just like fan bait.
Yeah, it's
all it is.
Massive like pop culture, nerd culture, franchises, and even the stuff that like, because some of it's like this thing like Transformers 1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, the Avatar: The Last Airbender trilogy. Like those are all franchises like I'm a fan of, and I would love for all of those to be great. They're all great ideas. But that's the thing.
Is this Paramount's list here?
Those are Paramount's
Okay,
list. Now
yeah.
there are other movies like they did like Moana 2 from Disney. I don't care about other stuff. But those were all three Paramount that they had already hinted at being in the works. And it's like, okay, Transformers 1 being an animated movie, I'm like, good. Let's get away from the Bayverse and maybe do something cool with that. Hopefully, The Last Ronin's an awesome comic, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, like mature graphic comic. So the R-rated movie is a cool thing. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They're doing that if they do it well. Same thing with the other one that I just already forgot. That Last Airbender trilogy. That's like coming from the people that made the original series, and they're doing a sequel trilogy of movies that follows the original like animated show. And I'm like, that's awesome if you're a fan of the show. But they have to also be faithful to those properties and make them well. And that's where I'm like, I just don't trust
and that's
Hollywood
where
to do that.
I immediately go into, again, another remake. We got the Running Man remake. Now,
Yeah.
granted, Edgar Wright's attached.
And it's not really
Glenn
a remake
Powell,
because the original movie, this is actually based on Stephen King's novel, and the
Okay.
original movie is,
loosely based.
it's based on the novel in concept only. Like the idea of like the Running Man
The game-
show,
the show.
the show. But everything like else is just kind of like just action, like it's it's Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I am intrigued in this one in the sense that yes, it's a remake, but it's supposedly according to Edgar Wright, he's being faithful to the novel.
And I'm interested mainly because of him being attached to it. But even now, just what you just said
Yeah.
makes me more interested, knowing that it's a faithful adaptation. But even still, it's a name that's been heard.
Yeah.
And not only that, you could also argue, okay, how many Stephen King movies are there? It seems to be the only freaking author that anybody wants to adapt, but because of his name.
Yeah.
Because they know it draws attention.
it draws butts in seats.
G.I. Joe and Transformers crossover. I mean, again, okay, but we're both those franchises.
I'm not looking forward
one
to
never
that.
took off. G.I. Joe's never
Yeah,
taken
I
off.
know.
Transformers has been buried, dead and buried, especially after that last one, that abysmal release.
Yep.
And that was the one that set up the G.I. Joe crossover. Was
Right.
the last one.
Yeah.
And of course, off.
Well, they're going to go ahead with it because
Yeah.
it made money.
Yep.
Sadly, people went and saw it.
And especially off the offshoot of what Bumblebee was, which was supposed to springboard it back into good
Right.
light.
Yep.
But then you got the Gladiator 2 footage, which I've heard they say epic on here.
Yeah.
That to me is editorialized.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there won't be some epic things, but I've heard what the story is, a treatment of the story. I'm not impressed. And I've even heard some people say, why has this got Gladiator attached to it? Other than a loose connection to the original.
I heard it was Joaquin Phoenix's son or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But
so
to me, even the story and what I've heard as like the basic synopsis, it doesn't. I don't understand why it's in the Gladiator universe or why it's just not called something different.
Yeah.
It literally sounds like they're just piggybacking off the name because of the success of Gladiator and how much of a mainstay it is. And honestly, Ridley Scott just thinks he can do no wrong. Sonic 3, okay, fine. I'm fine with that. The first two are fine. Again, it kind of... It fits into my I don't really care category because it's a kids film, and honestly, if it does a decent job of entertaining kids and somewhat comical with Jim Carrey and Keanu Reeves, I think will do a great job as Shadow.
It's like I don't have a problem with it, but like you said, it's not one that I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to go see Sonic 3.
Well, it's not a surprise either.
Yeah.
Again, the end of Sonic 2 shows Shadow, so you know there's going to be another one.
Yeah.
And you're right, and it's
Jim
like
Carrey said months ago that he had already signed up to do the third movie, so it's not a surprise. Some of this stuff is just
and even at the bottom here to round it out, SpongeBob and Smile 2. I mean, those last three we just mentioned are all part of franchises. They're all just part of material that we already have seen and known.
Which we've already seen trailers for. Plenty of Twisters we've seen trailers for. A Quiet Place Day One. I'm like that's
not necessary.
I'm like you don't need to turn everything into a massive franchise. A Quiet Place 1 and 2 were great. Let's leave it alone. We don't need to try to we don't need a prequel.
No, we don't. And then I do want to kind of shift to some of the politicking, which of CinemaCon in general. And I say politicking, it's more just like the more business, aspect of it, because there were some disappointments in terms of you've got some big reveals, but these reveals were in name only. There weren't a lot of trailers or a lot of footage shown. Disney showed quite a bit. I think there was 30 minutes of Inside Out 2 shown at CinemaCon.
Oh yeah, they're desperately trying
Brave
to
New World too.
Showed
a good 5 minutes or something of that movie.
So they're obviously you have certain heavy hitters, but then there was also only a lot of video messages from the stars that like Lupita Nyong'o touting Quiet Place Part 2. John Krasinski, he wasn't there. He was just touting it over video. I mean, there were notable names that weren't there that were kind of missing that they, I guess apparently in years past would have shown up to promote. Of course, The Rock was there to promote Moana 2, but that's not really a surprise. I think he'll get any chance to bolster and boost his name or have it in the spotlight. I'm sorry, I do want to scan through the article because I know there were quite a bit more. In fact, if y'all have it pulled up.
Yeah, well, as far as they did, let's see.
I know people weren't impressed with the new president's speech.
He actually kind of made a blunder. The new president over the MPA, Motion Picture Association, he kind of came out and he was just I forget the exact quote, but he bungled it and he said, "I'm sorry, it was early in the morning." He said, "I believe the future of the theatrical industry is limited."
Yeah,
it's like,
he meant
buddy,
to say limitless.
That's the business you're in. Yeah, and of course I misspoke, but still, kind of funny that it's like, dude, it's not it is your first rodeo under this banner of being president of the organization, but considering the year we just had of cinema, and considering that this year even he mentioned a lot of what is coming is more on the lookout for 25 and 26, not 2024. 2024 is not going to be a boom.
They said that this would be
they
mentioned being a rebuilding year for at NATO, which is not that NATO we've mentioned before, National Association.
Although who knows with the way the world is going.
I mean, it could be a rebuilding year for the other NATO too. But it is. It's a lot of things that people were kind of. Everything people already knew about. Yeah, like you said, people already knew about almost all these projects. It was a little lackluster, and again, they're all, like you said, not coming out for a couple of years. They did say they did a sizzle reel of Disney's Snow White, and that does interest me only in that I want to know how they've tried to salvage this movie. I know this movie's still going to be terrible.
The fact that they had a sizzle reel at CinemaCon and no one has mentioned it.
Yeah.
Nobody's talked about it.
It's a movie that was supposed to have already been released.
Yep.
And they're doing a sizzle reel because they're heavily refilming things. And I'm like, I can't wait to see how it's going to be a chop job. It's just going to be a bad movie
course.
Because they're going to try to cut out the things that they know are going to be unpopular because of all of the crap Disney has done already and Rachel Ziegler. But it's just, I think that's hilarious to me that I'm like, oh, they did a sizzle reel of Snow White and nobody cared.
Also interesting is that, and this was kind of interesting, kind of going back to the business side of things. This article says, speaking to the MPA, try as the press did, we got a few concrete answers about what happened to the MPA's annual theme report. The theme report gives a valuable pulse of the industry, market trends, official box office counts, streaming numbers, and more. Since the March 2022 report for calendar year 2021, it wasn't MPA, but more like MIA, missing in action. They're still working on it and had a couple of internal issues, the CEO said. But it has not gone away. Okay, but what gives? The presser started out on an awkward note from that one quote he just misquoted, or he misspoke. It has something to do with the accuracy for streaming numbers and figuring out if the way they have been doing the report for years has even been the best formats. That's what Rivkin said, or suggested. That's the new president. Considering it's already April 2024, maybe don't count on a report for last year, let alone 2022.
It's like, they don't even have the year before.
And he says, I take responsibility for its delay. The MPA's two most public-facing responsibilities, among others, is including being a ratings board, but also a research body, he explained. And it's really important to get that research or that resource out there for a lot of reasons. But we are assured that next year we'll have stuff to see from Sony after the studios set this year out. A first look at DC Studios, Spider-Man. So basically touting, hey, we got other studios, or Superman, sorry. That we got other studios that are going to be, that weren't a part of it this year, that are hopefully going to be next year. Trying to cover up the little blunder of, we know this report and this data of kind of what some market research that maybe theater owners want to know, and also maybe even studios want to know to see what the market trends are, what's trending downward, what's trending upward. Again, so that we, it's funny because as much time as we spend on here criticizing some of the stuff we don't like to watch, believe it or not, there's a lot that gets greenlit on the hope that someone will watch it. But there are people, producers, especially your executive producers in big studios, who want to know, is this actually going to sell?
Well, and the theater goers who are relying on people to come to the theater, or the theater owners who are relying on people to come to the theaters, want to be like, we want to know if you're producing movies that people actually come to our theaters to watch. It's like they're suffering because, and it's funny because it's like, okay, in what position, what job? Like it's been over a year. It's like it's time for the
now.
It's the time for the 2023 report. It shouldn't take 2 years to make a report, even if you do have to change like how you analyze certain statistics or it's streaming or whatever. If I told my boss like and they asked me to do something, they say, "Well, you'll get it in 2 years." I don't think. I'm just saying, like I don't think that's going to cut it.
Sorry for the delay.
Now, granted, and I haven't looked this up, and I may be. Well, I'll plead ignorance on this. I really don't know because I haven't done a lot of research into the MPA. But I'm not sure, is this body funded? Is the MPA an actual standalone organization that just does this by virtue of, is it like a nonprofit? Is it a for-profit organization that is in conjunction with all the major league studios in Hollywood and they fund it? I don't know if this is, because I know they rate films, so some part of it has to be somewhat, I would say, disconnected with, where somebody could just come in, pay a bunch of money and say, well, we don't want our movie rated that way. So there's got to be some kind of disconnect from the higher ups, but I really don't know that in terms of like, is it their even though they've presented this data and this research in the past, is it that they're obligated to? It may be a nice thing for them to do, and they still want to do
obligated.
And he mentions on there it's our responsibility, but is it responsibility in quotes? Is that like something that you take on because of your organization and that's what you're expected to do? But are you legally obligated to do it? That I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's where it's one of those situations where we can give them crap all we want and even say it's hurting the industry overall when you leave this, when you leave the research on the table or not let it, be exposed, because it does. It seems like something shady. But ultimately, because it's no secret the movie industry has been hurting over the last several years. But is it one of those things where it's so necessary to the inner workings of the movie industry that, is this just something that they're crying foul or another thing they can blame as to why numbers haven't been up?
I think
could be that too from the industry perspective.
I think it's more of a thing for them. It's another thing for them to be able to hide behind. Just like you talked about how like Disney doesn't include ESPN in their streaming like numbers. It's like one of those things like if we don't reveal the numbers, then you can't we can't
Yeah,
It's
you
just
don't see how bad things are.
It's like we can hide it. It's like we
Yeah.
can continue to lie and be like,
Yeah.
oh, no. Disney's doing a lot better than you think because we're not going to show you what their
Right.
numbers really are.
And that's my only question is I don't know, is it to their detriment or to their benefit
Yeah.
withholding certain information? And ultimately, is it one of those things where, oh, are they waiting for a rosy $10 billion a year theatrical, boom that they're like, oh, by the way, here's those numbers that we've been holding out on. Sorry. And it kind of gets rushed, swept under the rug because nobody cares anymore. Because, hey, look, we just had a great year. So, again, kind of politicking there on the side of the, obviously when you come away from something like CinemaCon, you want to talk about all the great movies that are to come out. It still seems like a majority of what's on the horizon is going to be for the 25-26 year
Franchises.
But we mentioned, no end in sight.
Yep.
No end in sight. I mean, nothing piqued my interest in terms of just being, and generally that's how I think it's going to be moving forward. Unfortunately, you're still going to have even tentpole films.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
indie
I'm not opposed to that, but
Well, you're going to have your tentpole films, but you're also going to have tentpole indie flicks that I think come out, garner enough praise from word of mouth and from just the general populace that you're gonna have those breakthrough hits every once in a while that come out and people are just like, I want to see more like that. And then sadly, what you're gonna see is something like A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, how do we turn this into a franchise?
yeah.
Oh, okay, that's now
Well,
what their
it's
new
like,
secret sauce is.
What was that? Talk to Me, the horror film was good, and they're talking like already doing that as a franchise.
Yeah.
Smile too. We just got confirmation that I mean, look,
Talk to Me maybe could be decent sequel. Smile 1 wasn't good enough. Like it was fine. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't good enough to warrant a sequel.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't. And even Talk to Me is done
doesn't
so
need a
well.
sequel.
It doesn't
Yeah,
need
yeah.
it. It'd be better if it
It'd
did.
be like
one of
doing a
those-
Barbarian sequel. Like
Yeah,
why?
yeah. Oh, well, don't give them any ideas.
Please don't. That was a great movie.
Blumhouse was one of the that's one of the production houses that I was really thinking
wasn't there.
They're only going to do these one-off films, and they're all going to be decent. Even that one that I sent you all the trailer for today with James McAvoy.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that looked like a really decent movie, another Blumhouse movie. But it's like, I don't want them to, because Talk to Me was a Blumhouse too, wasn't it?
I think so.
I can't remember
and
if
so
it
was
was or not.
Smile. I thought that was Blumhouse also.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was. Which I think, what is the one you sent us again? What's it titled?
Speak No Evil.
Speak No Evil. I think
Yeah.
it's a
It's a Danish horror film that came
so
out
it's kind
in
of
2022.
doing the is it Let Them In?
Oh, Let the Right One In.
Let the Right One In.
was
That
good.
because that had a
That was
remake.
amazing.
Yeah,
An
that was a
American
vampire movie, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Had Chloe Grace Moretz in it.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
the
American-
remake
That's
did.
the remake.
Right, the American
that one
version.
was just Let Me In.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let the Right One In.
Is the original,
Is the original.
Swedish movie. I
Let
believe,
me
yeah.
let me in was
Yeah,
the.
yeah.
I thought it was called Let the Right.
I
One
thought
In.
it was called Let the Right One In.
It is.
No. The remake's just called Let Me In.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Please look that up. I don't know if that's
I
a
just
different
did.
movie.
Let Me In 2010.
Okay, with Chloe Grace Moretz.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. It
Yeah.
just Let the Right One In sounds way better.
Because
Why'd
it was a better movie.
That's
I never
what,
saw the
Matt
other-
Reeves. I didn't realize
Never
he
saw the
directed
original.
that. The original was great.
Actually, I did know he did that.
Yeah, I forgot. Well, I mean, I probably did at the time, but I just didn't realize that he did that.
But okay, yeah, that's. It seems like maybe that's what they're doing with the Speak No Evil.
Let Me In wasn't a bad movie. It was just
wasn't.
kind of dull compared to. I felt like the original just had the better emotional punch.
I mean, for the time that it came out, Let Me In, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was bland, but they were kind of going for more minimalistic horror.
yeah. I was just saying that the original was
Much better.
Was better
Yeah.
for sure.
And, but
it'd be like remaking Life is Beautiful. It's like, why would you do that? Like, I know it's a foreign film, but why remake it?
Yeah,
like,
no, you're right.
It's like
don't do that.
It's like
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Let's stop giving them ideas.
I'm just saying, it's like
You're right.
sometimes it's like, I know like you're trying to make it for a new audience because people don't want to watch a subtitled film, but sometimes it's just when you hit something that good, like, and I'm not saying Let the Right One In is as good as Life is Beautiful, but it's much better than Let Me In.
But yeah, ultimately, CinemaCon 2024, nothing hugely surprising. I think there were a lot of surprises for those who weren't expecting as many announcements. But again, announcements are one thing. The proof is in the pudding. Once we see the results, is it really worth a lot of what we have been teased with? And I think we'll come to find out again when we review them, because a lot of these, I guarantee you, are on the docket for what we're going to be reviewing in the future. Ready to move on to our final segment of the night. Let's get into story time.
Yeah.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
Story time.
Yeah. How many stories?
Okay, we're going to do popcorn story. I'm going to start off, and then we'll just go around. I knew I wasn't going to stop it. No, we're gonna, you know what? Spring is
That's
here.
the only one tonight so far, I think. No, okay.
I would say he's like the freaking movie producers. You give him an idea, and he's going to take it and run with it.
We'll run with it.
Turns it into a
Run with
franchise.
it.
Yeah,
Star
buries
Wars.
it.
They're already
Sequel after sequel.
Disney already did that, but hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I will forever still love it's like, you know what? The prequels, yeah, compared to the original trilogy are crap.
they have a charm
but
about them.
I will forever love them more than Disney Star Wars. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't like them then, but I like them now.
Yeah,
Disney
It's like Disney made me like the prequels.
and it's sad, but it's so. I mean, because here's the thing: as many plot holes as there may be that they later filled in the gaps with like Clone Wars and other stuff, it's still like there's a charm, but there's also a cohesive beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
Like there is a story that's built up. 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Talk about what I wish we could go back and re-review and
Yeah.
re-talk about on the podcast. Because I know we praised those when they came out.
Yeah.
And, man, I regret that so much. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not talking about that.
I couldn't
What are we
find
talking
anything
about?
sad enough to press for that.
Game over, man.
Oh, yeah.
Game over, man. It's game over.
His
I
voice
love that
cracking at the
high
end.
note.
Game over. I need to put one on there from Twister. Oh, I got to find some good Twister stuff.
Yeah.
It's the suck zone.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
That would be
yeah. Yes.
And I don't know how often we could use it, but Finger of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
Not
where we
very
would
often.
use that.
Oh, that was the evil bill would be a good one too.
That- yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
I
don't
killed
know.
him.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know for
And I
sure,
killed
but
him.
Yep, that would be a good one. Oh, there's so many. He's like,
We've
it's
got
already.
cows. Stupid movie, man.
I'm still
telling you, I
saying-
can't believe Spielberg did that.
Tommy Lee
he
Jones.
didn't do
he
that.
produced
He
it, but he didn't
produced
direct
it.
it. Yeah, he didn't
Let's
direct
say.
it.
I don't think Spielberg would have produced a movie and put. Oh, what was that band at the end? It's Humans Being is the song.
That was Van Halen.
It was
Yeah,
Van
yeah,
Halen.
Yeah.
I just man.
It was
Spielberg wouldn't have
Van
made a
Hagar.
movie. Oh, there it is, Van Hagar.
It's Van
Yeah.
Hagar. It's not Van Halen.
Humans being shine on, shine on. I loved that song when it
Oh, I
came out.
know.
Dude.
I
ain't
had
gonna
the
lie.
Twister album.
Yeah.
Jan
the
de
Twister
Bont
soundtrack.
directed it.
Who?
Jan de Bont.
Really?
Jean de Bon.
It might be Jean.
I don't know
It's
who.
It's Jan, which looks like
Really?
Jan, but it might be
No,
Jan.
it's
So
Jan.
weird, dude, because
With
I thought
Jan
that was
de
one of
Bont.
Spielberg's movies.
No,
I knew he didn't direct it.
I knew he produced it. He
Yeah.
might have even just EP'd it. He
Wow.
I don't know if he actually like had any handle on that movie because it was
Is
around.
he? I don't
it
even know if
was-
he was a producer.
Oh, he's not attached to it.
I'd have to go. Let me go to IMDb.
Yeah,
I was,
IMDb 's
I was
not-
looking
wow.
at the
Say, where did I
producers.
get Steven Spielberg?
I mean, here's
I
the
could've
thing.
swore he-
Kathleen Kennedy produced it.
That makes
and
more
Mike
sense.
and Michael Crichton wrote and
Michael
produced.
Crichton?
Or Crichton.
He wrote the book.
He wrote.
He wrote the book it was based on.
Was
didn't
it
he?
based on a book? I mean,
Yeah,
he
I
wrote
don't
the
think it
Jurassic
was-
Park book, but
Yeah, I don't think it was based on a book.
but he
either.
also wrote just movies. Like he didn't. Like he also like
I don't think it was based on anything.
Really?
I think it was an original.
he
like-
just came up with the movie. Yeah.
Now the only movies he did based on books were Jurassic Park and Congo. But ultimately, it would make sense that you would think Steven Spielberg was attached to
Well,
it.
he wrote those books too. Like
Wait,
Michael Crichton
right,
wrote
right,
those books,
right.
but he also helped with the screenplays for those.
But Spielberg, at that time, I mean, think Jurassic Park. I mean, you think these summer action flicks, blockbuster
yeah.
movies. It fits right in there with it.
It does,
You-
for
but
sure.
but yeah, I mean, I hate to say, I think if Spielberg had directed it, it might have had a little bit more levity and a little bit more, a little bit more.
I love how our story time turned into Twister.
I know.
Yeah, what's the story
It's
time
not even
segment?
Well, I'll get to that in a sec. I just want to finish my
Yeah,
point.
go ahead.
I just think that Spielberg would have brought probably a little bit more sanity to the movie that I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much.
Yeah.
It would have made it too serious and too down to earth. And what makes Twister such a great movie is that you have about, in the span of like a week, they're in Tornado Alley and they run into like 6 different tornadoes, and they're all different types and different. It's just a great summer blockbuster. Yeah, and freaking Bill Paxton just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, he does.
Of course.
I mean, unrealized idea. Unrealized.
That
was
Bill Paxton.
Carrie Elwes. He's saying it to Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
And there was, I mean, Hill,
so
Philip
good.
Seymour Hoffman,
Yeah.
Helen Hunt. I mean,
Yeah.
So
It had
good.
the names,
That's right.
Uh,
It's already here. That was Bill Paxton.
because no one really, I would say no one really knew Philip Seymour Hoffman at that time.
Nope.
So, like, he wasn't as big.
No, he
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
He was just getting his start.
Yeah.
Yep, Dusty. All righty. Story time. Story time. I love that movie. I love that movie. No.
he's a Dusty.
Man.
Like they're best friends.
Yeah, it's just like good old Dusty.
Good old Dusty.
Oh, man. It's like, here, give me a kiss. And he jumps in the van. Loser! Moving on. I love it. All right, no. All right, story
Yeah,
time.
any story you'd
segment.
like to share?
Story
10
time
minutes left.
segment.
Yeah.
We're talking. It's springtime. We're getting into summer. We are talking about a great subject.
Tornadoes.
We all like to experience and know so much about
Tornadoes.
fishing. The time you went fishing.
I go
That's right.
fishing all the time.
I don't go a lot, but I enjoy it when I do go.
Yeah.
So much that I go down and I noodle for bass.
That's professional.
Yeah.
That's
noodling right
professional.
there.
I'm telling you.
You're
noodle
good at
for
it
a
too, ain't
bass.
you?
I'm just telling you, man.
He
You
goes
don't know
down
what
to-
you're missing.
He goes down those boat docks at No Land, grabs like the little crank machine with the cat food, and just sticks his hand in the water and pulls the carp out.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
The ones that just sit there waiting for people to feed them.
That's it. And I'm like, I got a fish. I got one. It's sucking on my finger right now.
So that's how you noodle for a carp. You're just like,
Yeah.
stick your finger in their
And they
mouth.
just kind of come straight up to it, thinking
Yeah.
you're going to feed them.
But no, I really do. It's like every year, I think, it'd have to be the past 5 years. Because after the 3 laps, I got 3 more years. But I buy a 3-year fishing license every time it comes up. It's just cheaper for one.
Yeah.
But I don't go as often. Usually it's like me, my dad,
Yeah.
my brother-in-law, and my brother. We all go when we can. The problem is just finding the time to go. And we usually try to pick like a Saturday morning. We all get up early. We'll meet over at my parents' house.
Yeah.
You know, my mom will make like sausage egg, breakfast sandwiches, and like we'll eat that before we head out, and then we go and we fish for about 3-4 hours. We used to take out a canoe, but it only seats about 2-3 people, and since there's 4 of us, it's like, yeah, we ain't trying that. But we used to go out on canoe, go down a couple different. Yellow Banks was the place we would go all the time, go fishing out there. But now we just go find either different bigger lakes and just take some chairs, sit out by the bank of the lake and enjoy it. Just sit out there, cast, and
I remember y'all's canoe. Like, I don't know if it's still there, but it was in the backyard. For a long time.
I think my dad gave it to my brother-in-law.
Oh,
I
that's cool.
think Jeff still has it.
That's cool. Yeah.
I have to ask. I don't know if when they moved, if they got rid of it, or I want to say it did. I know he patched it a few times. It was like old fiberglass.
Yeah, it was-
It lasted for years.
Yeah, they last a long time.
It was old because I remember it being back there like my entire life.
Yeah.
So
And and the thing is like my dad. I don't know. He had to have gotten it in like either the 80s or something like that. And we had that for forever, and I went in it several times. And it was fun. I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed just as much going out and sitting right there, casting my rod, and just kind of sitting back. And I used to hate it as a kid because I was antsy
yeah,
and I didn't have the
you
patience.
just wanted you to play your Game Boy, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. A lot of times I did. Not when we went out in the canoe,
No,
but definitely
yeah,
on
yeah.
the side of like a lake or something. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. I definitely like would get bored, and it's funny because now I like the patience of sitting there and enjoying the day. As it just it kind of
Especially if you
heats
take
up a little
cigar
bit.
with you, man. Yeah.
It's the one thing we don't get to enjoy,
Yeah.
and my dad wouldn't care, but it's just like I've never taken one. And
That's definitely multiple. Because growing up, I used to actually, a guy that my dad and uncle both worked with had a farm, and like he had cattle and everything, and we'd go down like I don't even remember where it was at, but it was in the country, like on his land, and he had a big old pond, and we would actually camp there for the weekend, like he had daughters, and like we would all like we'd have different tents set up in his like field, like where like the cattle would like roam or whatever, and we would fish in this pond, and that was always a blast. I used to love those trips because like me, Ty, Chase, Miranda, and like, we'd all just and then of course the lake that my grandfather, the lot he had purchased, like we go there, like we would, when we're at the lake, me and Dad will wake up early and go fishing, but we've been out like on the boat and just go out around the banks all day, like just trolling around fishing, and that's always great. So we have the fishing boat now that he's trying to get to run, so maybe that will be even better experience if that happens, as far as being able to actually not troll on a pontoon, because you don't really
troll on a pontoon.
It's not fun. You can fish off it, sure, but it's not as effective to get around it.
Sean, what about you? I know you got that fishing boat.
Yeah, I've been fishing as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
It's started on my Uncle Clay's farm in their pond when I was probably 3 or 4. And I mean, we go fishing as many times as I can every year.
Yeah.
My dad bought a bass boat in 1998, maybe.
Dang, it's that old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's old.
But it's still kicking.
Yeah, it's still kicking. It still floats. But no, that's fishing has always been with my dad. Like that's just, I've taken other people fishing, but it's not, no offense.
No,
it's not as fun as it is with my dad.
Yeah.
And mostly just because we end up having some really good conversations while we're on a boat together. So it's just from, saving, figuring out how to save the world to
right.
to our faith, to women, marriage. I mean, whatever it is, we've talked about it. Yeah. So I just a lot of fond memories of being on the water with my dad in a boat.
I think it's the perfect activity for that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because there's one thing, like I was kind of saying, where I was impatient when I was a kid. The one thing that changes, obviously, as I got older, I not only enjoyed that aspect of it, but now, and I still enjoy this too, but it's kind of funny because a lot of times when we go, obviously, we'll take my nephews, and we'll take Sam and Tripp and Andrew, and it's great because it's like they're now getting that same experience and enjoying it. But there are times where it's like they get bored. And now, I'm at the point where I'm like, I want to be out here just peaceful, patience. And then it's like, by the time they're bored and they want to get out of there, it's like, well, all right, we got to start wrapping it up pretty soon because, obviously they can only take so much of it, and they can only handle, I guess, the boredom for so long before it's like, all right, we'll wrap it up. We'll get out of here. Again, memories that they'll remember when they grow up, but they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I just enjoy so much of being able to kind of. It's just one of those other activities. It seems like a bygone era, of which it's not. I mean, plenty of people still fish.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it's an activity you can do now where you shut off the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You put your phone down. It's just you sitting there, and again, not a care in the world other than what you're doing in that moment. And that's when you can have those genuine conversations come up.
I say one thing I've always wanted to do that I am going, like, because I look at them every year, and one day I will, but I really want to get a kayak because I would love to just go out on the water on a kayak and sit there and fish
It's
right
hard.
there. It is, and
It's
it's
really
something.
hard.
It was something I would. No, it's definitely something that I know. Like I would, I'm sure I'm gonna flip the kayak a few times, and I'm going. It's something I would have to practice, but it's just something that because I do love I've been canoeing and I'm just like I would love to just be able to right there on the water in the kayak. And,
Yep.
But I'm sure like you said, I'm probably gonna flip that thing multiple times. Like I'm not gonna take anything with me.
It's hard to get a fish in the kayak when you catch one.
Yeah.
Like it's not like fishing from a
Oh
big
yeah,
boat.
yeah, because you can't stand there. You have
it's
to.
very difficult.
Yeah.
But you can get to the places in a kayak that you can't get to in a boat.
Yeah.
So it's beneficial and detrimental.
And I mean, I think Hunter would probably would do that with me, and because it's funny you talk about general, it's not much of a thing, but yeah, Hunter fishes and Jared fishes, David fishes. So if you pass it on, it'll continue.
Yep.
My sons haven't caught the bug yet. I'm hoping that one day they will. I don't know. When I was a kid, I had ADHD, super bad. I was on Ritalin. But I remember fishing being one of those things that I didn't get bored and antsy with, like because of the focus that's required. Like it was, my dad would tell me, watch that bobber.
Yeah, as soon as it goes down.
If it goes down, you set the hook.
Yeah.
And my focus would be on that bobber. I mean, I would watch that bobber.
Yeah.
Though a nuclear bomb could be going off, but I was watching that bobber. It was something that I could focus on and nothing else. And so fishing was always something that I had the patience for when a lot of other kids didn't, because it helped me with the attention deficit. Like I literally just could focus on that one thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons that I still find it like so peaceful and just kind of, like you said, it's kind of letting everything else go, because it's I'll even when we're moving, like you said, like trolling, and you're not staying in the same place for long. You're moving along the bank in the boat, but it's when you're fishing, it's like I'm going to focus on that one spot, and I'm going to cast in that one spot. And if nothing's there, I'm going to cast in that spot.
Yep.
And it's like I could do that for 8 hours. No, and it flies by, and I don't get tired of it. I don't get bored of it, because it's just one thing that I'm focused on. If anything, it's like sometimes when we're having a conversation with me and my dad, it's like I'm like, hang on a second, because I can't talk to you and do this at the same time. Like my focus is like
dedicated to that.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's one of those things that I got somewhat good at it, and it's I focus on that. I can go by myself and fish all day.
Really?
So it's hard to get the boat in the water by yourself.
And I know you've done that too. When we've gone to the lake,
yeah.
like you'll get up early and you'll go down there and fish off the dock for a little bit, come back up, and then we're all just kind of waking up, and it's like,
I don't do that much anymore. But
we've all gotten older and we sleep in. But no, I mean it's just an activity that, it's leisurely, and at the same time it is kind of methodical, and
you could do outside and like you said, enjoy nature and enjoy, like, a beautiful day. Like, I mean, I like just like sitting out on my back deck, like smoking a cigar, but if you could actually be like out on the water fishing and
it's weird. It's like I do somewhat associate it to hunting, although I've never formally been hunting.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of, because
it's a game sport.
It is. But it's a fishing, in my mind,
a little
is
bit more
relaxing. I feel like hunting, it is sitting and waiting, but it's a lot more like you got to be ready and ready to go whenever it happens. Whenever there's a deer that crosses your path,
but I don't think it's any less relaxing.
You don't catch the fish.
But fishing, like whereas hunting, you're just kind of.
I guess that's different. I don't bobber fish anymore.
I don't either. I put the weight on it and I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And if I feel that tug, then I wait a little longer.
Sitting and waiting.
Yeah.
I don't fish that way anymore.
Yeah, so that's why I feel like fishing may not, like, I mean, I still say it's relaxing, but because I'm not, like, I don't know, the sitting and waiting and hunting is kind of more relaxing, because I watch the trees, I watch, like, the wind, and, like, you're just enjoying yourself, and then if you hear, like, some leaves rustling, you look over and you're like, oh, is that something? Oh, no, nothing, that's a squirrel. Then you see a deer come out and you take a shot and miss it, and you're like,
time to go home.
Exactly.
It's like I just scared.
Time to go home.
Shot my shot. So.
Because at that point you've scared everything around you, so there's no point.
And I think the main thing here is I'm missing a rifle. I need to get a rifle. But you know what? That being said, we'll talk about that on a different time, because now we've talked about maps, we've talked about rifles, we've talked about January 6th, we've talked about every red flag topic issue that could probably get the FBI listening
hunting,
in.
fishing, and January 6th,
Civil War, and everything. Let's just all of it, all that matters.
Donald Trump.
Yep. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode.
That
was it. That was the final straw.
I'm trying to think of one more thing I could Ron DeSantis. I don't know. He's not relevant anymore.
He's not on the radar.
Isn't it sad? He's
I know.
just off the
Yep, that's it.
He's off the map.
Yeah.
I love DeSantis. Love DeSantis.
That was good, though.
I do love him.
That was good.
And hey, he went back down to Florida. He's still doing a great job down there. Alrighty, guys.
Let's start that Florida alliance.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's going to start the real.
Now we're back to Civil War.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. That's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Like you can every single week, and we would expect you to. Okay, we can't say expect. I would hope.
You do it. You get on there and you do it now.
All right, listen to Keith. Like, share, subscribe on all of our favorite social media accounts. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and of course search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube and Rumble. We appreciate all the love there that you can give us. And there is that old-fashioned way of reaching out to us. Yeah, email. Keith. Every time.
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
I swear, every time he says it, just, oh, man. A little cold chill in the summer heat. Ooh. All righty, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
Cedric Creel.
Cedric Creel. He remembered his name.
Creel.
He remembered his name.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.